I'm going to introduce to you the new Shakespeare Catch More Fish Trout combo. This combo comes supplied with an 8-foot rod that's perfectly suited to this kind of fishing. We've got a 30 size rear drag reel loaded with 6-pound mono, and we've got this tackle box containing some basic kit that will enable you to go trout fishing on a variety of venues, from small rivers, streams, lakes and commercial trout fisheries. So let's have a look at the tackle box and I'll explain what comes with this fantastic kit. So, as I mentioned, the kit is supplied with this very good quality tackle box. First thing you need to do is remove these retaining clips that are used to attach the tackle box to the rod in the shop, and you've got a very nice, good quality tackle box. It's got removable retainers so you can adjust the size of the compartments, and it's packed with good quality kit that's going to enable you to trout fish effectively. So we've got 2 different spinners of different weights. We've got this 7-gram yellow spot spinner, which is a deadly spinner when you're fishing for smaller trout. It will cross over to other fish like perch and pike as well. And we've got a larger size 16-gram scale spinner from our Devil's Own range. That's another proven catcher for trout, especially where you need to cast further and you may be targeting bigger fish, so bigger trout. We've also included in this pack some of our fantastic power bait trout bait. Now this has got to be the best trout bait on the market, so you get a tub of this included in the kit. And on this one we've gone for the yellow trout bait, which proves very successful for trout fisheries throughout the country. Now moving on to the terminal tackle, we've got 4 bubble style floats that are great for fishing with that power bait, but obviously you can use them with other baits like worms and maggots. We've got 5 barrel swivels that will be required for a lot of your rig making for this kind of fishing, so for both spinning and for power bait. We've got a 1/2 ounce non-toxic weight, so again that's very versatile and will enable you to go fishing. And finally we've got 5 very nice quality size 8 hooks, so as I say, they're sharp, they're reliable and strong. So the tackle in this kit is good quality, and it's going to enable you to go fishing straight out the store with this kit. Okay, so let's start by doing a brief explanation of how to assemble the rod. As you can see, this 8-foot rod is 2-piece, so it's just a simple case of putting the joints together and lining up the guides, and basically that's ready to go. Your reel's already fixed on, and all you need to do is remove this plastic covering from the line by cutting it off, and you'll notice that the line is retained under this line clip. So what you need to do is remove that from the line clip, and I'll just show you how to set the reel up with the line and thread it through the rod rings very quickly. So basically you need to understand how the fixed spool reel works, and this is a device is called the bail arm, and that enables you to cast. And to thread the rod rings up with the line, we need to open the bail arm and then take the line and remove it from the spool carefully, and then simply thread it through the center of the rod guides. So this will only take a second. It's important to ensure that you get the line through the center and not behind one of the legs, because it will damage the line and you won't be able to cast very effectively. So there we go, just 2 more, and that's the line set up through the rod rings. Now I need to close the bail arm by turning the handle, and that traps the line behind the bail arm and it's ready to reel in. Just while we're on the reel, I just think I'll mention about the drag on the reel. This reel's a rear drag, so that means that the drag adjuster is situated on the back of the reel. And what that does is it adjusts the tension of the tension on the line, on the reel rather. So that enables you to play the fish effectively. So if you hook a big fish, you've set the drag and it will give line when the fish runs. Another important thing to mention is this switch on the bottom, and that's the on-off anti-reverse switch. So when it's on like this, you can't reel backwards, you can only reel forwards. But when it's off, you can reel backwards as well. So there you go, that's the fundamentals of a spinning reel, and in this case this is the very good quality Beta 30 rear drag. Okay, so I've got the line threaded through the rod, and I think I'm going to start off by showing you how to set up a very simple spinning rig. Now when you're spinning, it's always a good idea to use a swivel on the line, on the main line. And that's because as the spinner's coming back through the water, it can twist the line up and cause problems. So these swivels are designed to eliminate that twist. They revolve as the spinner revolves and prevents line twist and tangles. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to tie on the swivel to my main line with a very simple half blood knot. So that's the half blood knot. I always like to wet the knot to reduce the friction and keep the breaking strain of the line. And the way I do it, very simply to create the hook length, in this case I'm going to use the same as the main line, is I just cut that around about 40 or 50 centimeters away from where I've just tied on the swivel, and then I tie another half blood knot onto that, so I've got the swivel situated on the line. Okay, and then finally I'm going to attach the swivel, and in this case I'm going to go with this 7-gram spinner, and I'm just going to tie that on with the same half blood knot. Okay, very simple. I'm just doing 6 or 7 turns, wetting the knot, pulling it together, and then cutting the tail off. So there you go, that's the spinner on the line with the swivel and ready to go. Okay, so the next rig I'm going to show you is what we call a ledger rig. Now a ledger rig is simply utilizing a weight that's fixed onto the line by threading it through, and all I'm going to do is attach the swivel next with that half blood knot, and this has got to be one of the simplest rigs, but one which is absolutely effective for fishing with trout bait. So I've got the swivel on, and I'm going to do the same trick to make the hook length. I'm going to select, in this case, a little bit longer, more like 60 centimeters, and I'm going to tie that onto the main line. Now the difference with ledgering is obviously you don't have a float, so you're casting the weight out with the power bait and you're waiting for the fish to take it, and you'll see that by the movement of the rod on the tip. And another good trick when you're fishing like this is to actually retrieve it very slowly. Sometimes that can provoke a bite from the trout. So now I've selected one of those number 8 hooks, and I'm going to tie that onto the hook length with a half blood knot, and we've completed what is such a simple but effective rig. So I'll just show you. You can see that the lead slides down onto the swivel, and then we've got the hook, and that line between the swivel and the hook is what we call the hook length. And you need to vary that depending on how the fish are responding, because power bait actually floats. So what happens is when you bait up with the power bait, that little ball of bait will suspend up in the water. So I've just moulded the power bait around the hook to hide the hook, and when I cast that out, that now will pop up off the bottom and be very visible to the trout. Now trout absolutely love power bait. It's such an effective method for fishing for trout. But like I say, just think about the length of hook length to vary how high that bait is off the bottom, and also vary the size of the amount of bait that you're putting on. You could actually put twice as much as that on, like that, if you're fishing for bigger fish, or if you find that the fish prefer a bigger bait. And another really good tip that some of my friends have shown me is instead of using a ball like that, you can actually shape it, and shape it with a bit of a kink in it, so that, as I mentioned, if you are retrieving that back through the water, it will actually move enticingly and provoke a bite from a trout, maybe on a hard day. So that's a good tip to mention about power bait. Okay, so finally I'm going to show you how to utilise the bubble floats that are supplied with this kit. Now, I've actually kept the same hook length as what I was using on the ledger rig. I've still got the swivel attached to the main line, and the great feature about these bubble floats supplied are that they've got this push button that enables the float to be fixed in position. So they're very versatile. And the main reason for fishing a float is when the trout that you're catching are maybe feeding higher up in the water. So they're not feeding on the bottom, in the case when we were using the ledger rig, they're feeding up in the water. So it means that you can adjust the height of the float to adjust the depth that you're fishing. Now, I did mention that power bait, by its very nature, does float. So in some situations it's great to be fishing with the actual power bait in the surface of the water. On warmer days when the trout are feeding on the surface, that's an absolutely deadly method. So basically you've got the float, which enables you to cast and watch where your bait is, and then you've got the floating power bait trailing along in a perfect position for the fish to spot and take. Now, a really good tip that I can mention about this particular rig is if you want that bait to start to sink, what you can do is just simply add a split shot. In this case I'm using a BB split shot just above the hook, and just gently place that on, and then what you can actually do is hide that in the hook as well, and that will mean that the power bait will actually start to sink very slowly. Now that's an absolutely deadly form of presentation for catching trout as well. So that's the catch more fish, trout combo and kit, and I hope that explains something about how to use the kit and it'll enable you to go and catch some nice trout.